Hey guys, Marissa at kitchentablestamper.com. This is a live-ish video. I am out at a stamping retreat, and so today we're going to do our shortcut card sketch number 8. I'm sorry I'm not joining you here live, but we're going to stay on schedule with our card sketch series. This is shortcut card sketch number 8, and this is our card today. We're using the Garden Walk Designer Series paper from our paper sampler, and we're combining it up with a Heartfelt Hexagons bundle. Have you guys seen this one? It's a Stampin' Up! Online exclusive one for World Card Making Day. So if you haven't seen this one, cute stamp set, nice font, some good greetings and images that coordinate with this new Hexagon punch. I am just loving the bundle. We combined that with the Garden Walk Designer Series paper, and we are embellishing with flowers from the Modern Garden, which is the stamp set that coordinates with Garden Walk paper. And you can see our shortcut card sketch is brand new. It has never been seen before. Let's go ahead and do it, shall we? I'm going to start with a soft seafoam card base, so level A, 8.5 by 5.5 scored at 4 1/4, and then my Garden Walk Designer Series paper. And these are 3 different patterns, 1 1/4 by 5 1/4. Let's get those glued on. We're also using our Abundant Beauty decorative masks in each of these projects. So today we're going to take the 2 techniques that I've taught so far, stenciling with color on color and embossing with the stencil. We're going to combine it together to make our C layer. All right, there's our Designer Series paper strips. My piece here for my C layer is Petal Pink, and it is 4 by 1.5 inches. We're going to get some Petal Pink ink and our stencils, and we're going to do color on color with our houndstooth mask from Abundant Beauty. So I've got a piece of printer paper here, and I just put a little piece of washi tape. It's on a loop, and I'm going to pop that right underneath my cardstock so that it doesn't move while I'm stenciling. Then I'm going to put my mask over top. And I want to just pay attention here so that the houndstooth pattern kind of starts and stops even. So I want kind of to start and stop right to left with about half a houndstooth, and then I want it to start and stop with about 1/4 of a houndstooth at the top and bottom, just so that my pattern looks balanced when it's all done. I'm using some more old washi tape. Eventually I'll run out of these old washi tapes from projects, but I'm going to just tape down my mask. You can use like a Post-it note, you can use painter's tape, you can use that 3M repositionable tape, whatever you got that's low tack. Now here's something I'm realizing. I love using these masks to emboss, and we're going to, but you'll find that they don't lay as flat after you emboss with them. So keep that in mind. It's not a big deal, but it's something that you should know. And so just use a little tape, and then as I'm brushing the ink, I'll hold the mask so that it really makes good contact with the paper underneath. All right, so I've got Petal Pink ink, Petal Pink cardstock, and just like we did in the first video in the series, they'll all be linked in the description below, or if you're watching on the blog, there'll be a quick link series at the bottom of the blog post. But we're using the same color ink on the cardstock to apply the design. And we're just gonna make sure that we get good coverage. We want a nice contrast between the Petal Pink cardstock and the Petal Pink ink. And we do that by doing small circles and gently, a very gentle pressure Go all the way across our cardstock like this. Be ready for your fingers to get just a little bit inky because we want to keep holding that mask flat against the cardstock. Turn the paper. You can do that, you know, and it makes your life a little easier. That's why it's all taped down. Then after I've got pretty good coverage across the whole thing, I'm going to take another extra step and swipe the edges, because sometimes these little edge pieces where you only have part of the design get neglected. So go ahead and do that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at our work, and it's going to be really exciting. But we're going to add a second layer, kind of depth to this. Ready? All right, there's our petal pink. Petal pink. Now I'm going to rinse this mask off with water. That is the simplest way to clean this up. Clean, cold water. Don't rub it with a towel. Don't scrub it with a baby wipe. These little things are made out of thin plastic, and if you rub this with a baby wipe or with a rag, you can easily bend these and damage your mask. So I'm just going to take it to the bathroom or to the kitchen, and I'm going to run cold water over it, and I'm going to pat it dry with a towel. Then I'm going to give it just a minute to dry, because I'm going to pat it gently with a paper towel, but we don't want to bring a wet stencil onto our design. So let's set this aside a minute while it dries, and we are going to do some stamping. I've got a little dot outline from our brand new Heartfelt Hexagons and some white cardstock and a Stampin' Pierce mat, because it's photopolymer. We are going to do a little Stampin' here with Garden Green, Lost Lagoon, and Calypso Coral. What I've noticed with this stamp is you have to ink it gently and then press gently. You don't want to wobble this, because your dots will turn into like dashes or teardrops, and it doesn't take much for that to happen. So I'm going to try this one more time. Very gentle. Like, don't push, just maybe walk your fingers over, and then you'll get dots. Perfect. All right. Then what I'm going to do is ink up my greeting. I'm going to stamp it inside the hexagon, and then I'm going to ink it up again, and I'm going to stamp it outside the hexagon. We're going to do 3 of this flower. This is from the Modern Garden, and this is Lost Lagoon, and then 1 of this flower with Calypso Coral. All right, now we're gonna clear away the ink pads and set our stamping aside for just a minute to dry. All right, while that dries for a second before we go put it in the punch or fussy cut, let's bring our houndstooth back in. Now we're gonna take this houndstooth mask nice and clean. We're gonna cover the petal pink design so that we have the one that we just brushed, that we just stenciled, masked. And we're going to tape down our mask again. Now for this step, you can use a blending brush or you can use a dauber, because you're actually going to use your blending brush a little bit more like you would use a dauber, because we are going to fill in the opposite spaces with white craft ink. So you're going to tap, and then you're going to, instead of doing circles, you're going to just press into the spaces. You want a really good, generous coating of ink. You want to really see those spaces turn white. And then this ink is going to take a little bit to dry. Just so that you know, with the craft ink, when you go to use adhesive on top of it to add your ribbon and your sentiment, you're going to want this to be entirely dry. So I did make another one ahead of time that is dried entirely. The craft ink doesn't like to accept adhesive when it's still wet. You can use a heat tool to speed up the process of drying this ink. But you'll notice no circles, we're just kind of pressing in. So a sponge dauber would work for this one too. And then once we get all the way to the end, then we're going to do the same thing like we did when we did the petal pink design. And go along those edges and make sure that edges don't get skipped. All right, ready? We'll pick it up. And now we've got a white and petal pink contrast. And just to soften a little bit, because my design is soft and floral, I'm going to pick up a little bit of ink. It'll get any spots where the ink might have pooled under the stencil and just soften the blend. All right, this one is petal pink and white. And then because I was curious, my dry one is Calypso Coral in white. So this one's dry and so is this one. Thought it would be nice to pull more of the Calypso Coral in so you can see we've definitely got a little bit more contrast on the one that I did with Calypso Coral. Our next step is going to be to add some texture to this. We're actually going to emboss it also. And I see the camera picking up the emboss there. So we've got the two-tone blending, stenciling, and then we're going to add some texture by embossing. Let's give that the stencil just a second to dry, because I've rinsed it again with cool water and patted it dry with a paper towel. But while we let that sit and air dry for a second, we're gonna cut out, sending you lots of love and hugs. And do that with our hexagon punch. And we're gonna fussy cut our flowers. And we're gonna fussy cut you. Okay, flowers are fussy cut. Now I'm gonna add a little dimension to my sentiment. You'll see here my little oval sending you lots of love. I cut the U separately so that I can put it up on a dimensional and give a little emphasis to that element of the design. So we're just gonna cut this out with a little white border. There it is. And I'm going to get a mini dimensional. Actually, I have a half a dimensional right here. Pop that on. If I glue it to the label, then I won't lose it. And it's just a cute little element. All right, let's put these aside for just a minute, and we're going to get our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine and our mask back in here. We are going to emboss this two color stenciled element and give it some really cool texture. All right, so when you're embossing with masks, you need your Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine and the #1 platform. So there's our platform. Then you're going to put down a cutting pad, #3. Next is a silicone craft sheet. Then our paper. We're going to line up our stencil again, and I'm going to line it up so that I cover the Calypso Coral houndstooths. And then once you got it lined up like that, then if you want to, you can add a little bit of that low tack tape again, but the tape isn't going to stick very well to your silicone mat. So I'm going to do it right over on the edge here so that it's stuck to the #1 or the #3 cutting plate. Pop the 4 over the top and give it a crank. Pull that out, and now we have a lovely embossed texture on our element. Let's bring our samples back in here and our card. We're going to adhere the embossed piece to the card. And then I'm going to get some ribbon. This Garden Walk Suite has some really fun ribbon. You might recognize this. We've had this in Mossy Meadow and like a crumb cake or a neutral. It's a braided linen trim in Calypso Coral, and you need about 12-13 inches of ribbon. And what we're gonna do with that is we're just gonna loop it and then back towards or over itself. So we're not gonna tie a bow here. We're just gonna kind of form it, add it to the card. When you got it kind of how you like it, you can take little Stampin' Dimensionals or a little piece of tear-in tape, whatever you like there to secure the ribbon. And that'll also help us when we add our greeting. So the ribbon's secure. You can grab the greeting and put some of these dimensionals around the outer edge. That way we won't end up with any double dimensionals. Now before we add these to the card, first I'm going to remove the liner so that they're sticky. And then I'm going to remove the liner so that the center is sticky. But let me show you one more little element. I love the this bow builder punch with the modern garden flowers. It's a really nice product coordination here. And I punched 2 of these leaves with garden green cardstock. And what we're gonna do here is we're gonna use the dimensionals that are on the card and on the label to position these leaves. So I'm gonna lay my leaves on my card about where I want them to land, and they will end up kind of touching on the dimensionals here. And then when we bring this one that's sticky with the dimensionals over, we will be able to sandwich those down. And we didn't have any mess of liquid glue or anything on those little sprigs. They're sandwiched in, they're secure, and no mess. All right, let's go ahead and adhere our flowers. I am so in love with this Garden Walk Suite. It has flowers for every season, which is really cool. And then poinsettias and kind of roses, really pretty paper. I'm gonna take one of these and just put it face up so it sticks out from under the label. Now I'm gonna peel the release from the other side, stick it down. Stuck to my finger. And then I'm gonna add my little flower so that it's on that dimensional. Don't cover the greeting. With the Modern Garden and the Garden Walk Designer Series paper, there's flowers for every season. Lots of fun color palettes that you can pull out. I've got my little flowers here. Let me show you the embellishments in that suite. These are so pretty. They have that vintage Christmas feel. They're called Blooming Pearls. 4 colors. I'm gonna go ahead with the green and the pink that coordinate with the color palette we've got going on here. I'm gonna mix them. I'll take a big green one for the center of my Calypso Coral flower. Oh, it's falling off the sheet. Let's just give it a push. And then I'm going to do the small pink ones and my flower centers. Do you see it? Do you see what I'm talking about? Like a vintage Christmas look. I love the colors. All right, so there is sending you lots of love and hugs, and it is Shortcut Card Sketch number 8. I hope you love it. I missed you today on live, and because I miss you so much on live, let's do another one. Here's our second design for the day. It's exactly the same. Shortcut card sketch number 8. The Garden Walk Designer Series paper that you have a sample of in your holiday catalog paper sampler. We've got the bow punch again with the garden green leaves. We did a little bit different arrangement of our elements, the way we use the ribbon and the ribbon. I'm sorry, this ribbon is I'll tell you what it is because you might have it. It was on the clearance rack when I designed this card, but it's gone now. This is metallic edge cotton ribbon. And so all we did was choose a different Designer Series paper from the Garden Walk Designer Series paper sampler. And we cut the same 1 1/4 by 5 1/4 pieces. What we're doing this time though is using all the same pattern. So a little switch that you can make with the shortcut card sketch and try it with all the same patterns instead of 3 different. All right, of course you could pull out all the stops if you wanted to, or you could stencil or emboss. This is Pretty Peacock cardstock, and this is 1 by 4. It might even be 7/8 by 4. It is a scrap, so we're gonna just dovetail the ends of this one. A little bit more narrow than our embossed and stenciled piece. Now we're going to go ahead and glue that one down a little bit higher than our other one. Let's see. Yeah, that looks good. Let's get our ribbon treatment handled. I'm gonna, instead of loop and swoop, I'm just gonna loop one end, cut that away. Then I'm gonna tie the loop with some linen thread. So I'm just gonna lay the ribbon on the linen thread and tie it up, catching a little loop at one end. Then I'll tie a bow. And cut away from the spool. Trim the end. We'll add this to the card with some tear and tape adhesive. We want the loop to extend past the banner, but not past the end of the card. And then get that on there. Now at this point, I'm going to do a little trim on the tails of my ribbon. It's a little bit longer than the card. Now, we're going to add a tiny touch of glue on the stem only of our leafy sprigs and just touch those. Don't worry, there's going to be more dimensionals coming to hold it in place. All right, let's do some stamping while that dries for a second. We're going to use the same Heartfelt Hexagons, same greeting. We're doing everything the same, just highlighting a different pattern of the Designer Series paper. And to do that, we're gonna just slightly change up our color palette. I've got Lost Lagoon, Poppy Parade, and Pretty Peacock. Got basic white cardstock, and we're gonna do Lost Lagoon for our little dots. Again, almost no pressure, because you don't want your dots to turn into dashes or teardrops or half dashes, half dots. And then our greeting, we're gonna do one time in the center of the hexagon with Lost Lagoon. And then we're gonna do Pretty Peacock. Don't cry. you did see that right. I didn't even wipe off. When we've got color buddies like Lost Lagoon and Pretty Peacock, as long as you go from Lost Lagoon to Pretty Peacock, you really don't have to clean your stamp. I know that some people don't see it the same way, but that's how I roll. We're going to make our flowers Pretty Peacock. 3 of those. And that's Poppy Parade. The other flower is Pretty Peacock. Hold on. Wouldn't it have been funny if I just reversed the names entirely? Oh, goodness. All right. This one's really Pretty Peacock for the bigger guy. And now we'll do our fussy cutting and punch our greeting. All right, first thing, punch out our hexagon. And we'll fussy cut our flowers. And I did the others ahead of time. I knew I was going to do a bonus, even though I didn't tell you I was going to do a bonus. Let's get this guy back in here. And, oh, I almost forgot to fussy cut my U. I really do love this little detail that emphasizes, puts the emphasis on this U element. In our second card, we're doing the two-tone. So we got Lost Lagoon, Pretty Peacock combination that also adds some emphasis to it. That's what color buddies are good for. I'm going to put a little piece of dimensional, give it a pop. And then we can put this on with dimensionals. And what I'm going to do here is just add a couple, kind of like we did for the last one, where we're using it to further secure the ribbon and the little sprigs. And then we can remove the liner and add our label. I'm going to do the same thing like I did in the first one, where I take half a dimensional, tuck it under the label, then remove the liner so that it's now adhered to the card. Add one of these little guys. Don't cover your greeting. We'll put a dimensional on the back of our flower and snug that up against the greeting. Don't pin down the twine. These I did with dimensionals. I did them flat on the first design and popped them up on this one. The reason why I popped them up on this one, just in case you want to know, is because the designer series paper patterns are so busy. I found that if I popped these guys up, it gave them, it helped them to stand out just a little bit more from the designer series paper behind it. All right, here's our sample. Let's get some of those awesome dingles. And for this one, I'm just going to use the pink ones. It pulls the pink from the pattern, from the background pattern through. And I'll do a big one there and some little ones here. And that is our second shortcut card sketch number 8. These use exactly the same bundle and stamp set, the same designer series paper, and the same shortcut card sketch. But as you can see, you choose your own adventure and can get very different results. I really miss you guys this week. I'll see you live again next week. If you're watching on YouTube, we do Facebook Live every Friday at noon Central, and I'll be live again Friday at noon Central next week. Thank you so much for being a part of my paper sampler and sketch series, for your orders and your support. We are going to open a wait list for the paper sampler and sketch series. So if you didn't get in while the links were still open, we are starting a wait list. Hopefully when Stampin' Up! Restocks some of the paper here at the end of October, maybe the week of the 19th or the week of the 16th, a lot of the papers are scheduled to come back in. If the stock levels out, we will contact you if you're on the wait list to join us for the paper sampler and sketch series. The paper and sampler and sketch series is how you get the laminated cards and the binder. It's the only way that we do the binder and the laminated cards. But if you didn't get in on the sampler, you can get the shortcut card sketches. 1 through 8 are public on the blog. And if you wanted to, you could laminate them and make your own binder, or you could download them as PDFs and keep them on a file in your computer. So buzz over to kitchentablestamper.com. The link to this project is in the description below if you're watching on YouTube. Grab your shortcut card sketch number 8 and enjoy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys back again next week.